Daeho Kim lifted the twisted metal beam with his left arm and tossed it aside like it was made of paper. The cybernetic limb whirred softly as hydraulics adjusted to the weight. His right leg, also mechanical, kept him steady on the uneven ground of the scrapyard. Around him, piles of broken ships and old machines stretched as far as the eye could see. The morning sun of New Busan cast long shadows across the salvage field. Daeho had been working since dawn, searching through the wreckage for anything useful. His mechanical parts made the work easy, but they also made him different from everyone else on the colony world. He was the last human with working cybernetic limbs. 47 years ago, when Daeho was born, many humans had mechanical parts. Arms that could lift cars, legs that could run faster than animals, eyes that could see in the dark. But then came the Great Tech Collapse. All the factories that made the parts stopped working. All the computers that controlled them went silent. One by one, the mechanical limbs broke down and could not be fixed. Now Daeho was alone. His left arm and right legs still worked because Jimin Choi knew how to repair them. She was the only doctor on New Busan who understood the old technology. Every month, she would check his parts and replace what needed fixing. Without her, Daeho would be like everyone else, weak and slow. A sound made him look up. A small transport vehicle was coming across the scrap field. Daeho recognized the driver. It was Hyunwoo Lee, a young engineer who worked in the colony's tech center. Hyunwoo was always asking questions about his mechanical parts. The young man wanted to learn how they worked. The transport stopped near Daeho. Hyunwoo jumped out and ran over, his eyes bright with excitement. He was 24 years old and full of energy. His black hair was messy from the wind. "Daeho, you have to come with me right now," Hyunwoo said, breathing hard. "So-ra needs to see you at the admin building. It's important." Daeho set down the piece of metal he was holding. So-ra Park was the colony administrator. She ran New Busan and made all the big decisions. If she wanted to see him, something was wrong. "What happened?" Daeho asked. "Raiders," Hyunwoo said. "They hit the mining station on the North Continent, killed 15 people and took all the rare metals. So-ra thinks they're coming here next." Daeho felt his mechanical arm tighten into a fist. The raiders were aliens who traveled from world to world, stealing and killing. They had fast ships and powerful weapons. Normal humans could not fight them and win. The ride to the admin building took 20 minutes. Daeho sat quietly while Hyunwoo drove. The young engineer kept looking at his mechanical arm. "Does it hurt?" Hyunwoo asked. "No," Daeho said. "I can feel pressure and temperature, but not pain." "How strong is it?" "Strong enough." Hyunwoo wanted to ask more questions, but they reached the building. It was the tallest structure in the colony, with communications equipment on the roof. Inside, people were running around looking worried. So-ra Park was waiting in her office. She was 38 years old with short black hair and tired eyes. When she saw Daeho, she stood up from her desk. "Thank you for coming," she said. "We have a problem." She showed him pictures on her computer screen. The mining station was completely destroyed. Buildings were burned and equipment was scattered everywhere. Bodies lay in the dirt. "They used plasma weapons," So-ra said. "Our security team had regular guns and body armor. It wasn't enough." Daeho studied the pictures. He had fought raiders before, on other worlds. His mechanical parts made him faster and stronger than normal humans, but even he could not stop a whole raider fleet. "How many ships?" he asked. "Our satellites saw 12, So-ra said. "They'll be here in 3 days." "I can't fight 12 ships by myself." "I know. That's why I need you to find us better weapons. There's an old crash site in the eastern mountains. Long-range sensors show metal and energy signatures. Maybe there's something we can use." Daeho nodded. The crash site was 200 kilometers away in dangerous territory. Wild animals lived in those mountains, and the weather was bad. But if there were weapons there, the colony needed them. "I'll leave in the morning," he said. "Take Hyunwoo with you." He knows about technology, and you might need his help. After the meeting, Daeho walked through the colony streets. New Busan had 50,000 people living in small houses and apartment buildings. Children played in the parks while their parents worked in factories and offices. None of them had mechanical parts. None of them were strong enough to fight raiders. He stopped at Jimin Choi's medical clinic. She was working late as usual. When she saw him, she smiled. "Let me guess," she said. "Sora wants you to save the colony again." Jimin was 35 years old and had been his friend for 10 years. She was the only person who really understood what it was like to be different. Her parents had died in the tech collapse, and she had spent her life learning how to fix the machines that others had forgotten. "The raiders are coming," Daeho said. "I have to find weapons." Jimin ran her scanner over his mechanical arm. The reading showed everything was working normally. "Your power cells are at full charge," she said. "The servos are running smooth, but I don't like sending you out alone. Hyunwoo is coming with me. That boy talks too much, and he doesn't know how dangerous you are." Daeho looked at his reflection in the clinic window. Half of his body was still human, but the mechanical parts were obvious. His left arm was black metal with glowing blue lines. His right leg was the same. People stared at him when he walked by. Some were afraid, others were curious. All of them knew he was the last of his kind. "Sometimes I think it would be easier to be normal," he said. "Normal people can't lift a truck," Jimin said. "Normal people can't run 50 kilometers without getting tired. The colony needs you exactly as you are." The next morning, Daeho and Hyunwoo left New Busan in a heavy transport vehicle. They drove east toward the mountains, following old mining roads. The landscape was rocky and empty. Strange plants grew in the cracks between stones. "Have you ever been to a crash site before?" Hyunwoo asked. "Many times," Daeho said. "Most ships that crash here are human. Sometimes we find useful parts." "What about alien ships?" "Those are different. Alien technology doesn't work the same way as human machines, but sometimes you can figure it out." They drove for 6 hours before reaching the mountains. The crash site was hidden in a deep valley, between two peaks. When they got close, Daeho's mechanical arm started to vibrate. It had never done that before. "Something's wrong with your arm," Hyunwoo said. Daeho looked at the limb. The blue lines were glowing brighter than usual. The vibration was getting stronger. "It's not broken," he said. "It's reacting to something." They parked the transport and walked into the valley. The crash site was bigger than expected. A huge alien ship had hit the ground and broken into pieces. But in the center of the wreckage, something was different. It was a perfect cube. 2 meters on each side, made of silver metal that seemed to glow with its own light. When Daeho saw the cube, his mechanical arm began to hum with energy. Whatever was inside that strange object, it was calling to the technology in his body. Daeho walked slowly toward the silver cube. His mechanical arm was humming so loud that Hyunwoo could hear it from 10 meters away. The blue lines along the cybernetic limb were pulsing like a heartbeat. His right leg was starting to vibrate. 2. "Maybe we should stay back," Hyunwoo said. He pulled out his scanner and pointed it at the cube. "I'm getting strange readings. The energy output is off the charts." "It's not dangerous," Daeho said. He didn't know how he knew this, but he was certain. The cube wasn't trying to hurt him. It was trying to talk to him. The wreckage of the alien ship surrounded the cube like a broken shell. The ship must have been carrying the cube when it crashed. But the cube itself had no scratches or dents. It looked like it had just been made yesterday. Daeho reached out with his mechanical hand. The moment his metal fingers touched the silver surface, everything changed. Light exploded from the cube, so bright that Hyunwoo had to cover his eyes. The humming sound became a musical tone that filled the whole valley. Inside his head, Daeho could feel the cube connecting with his cybernetic parts. It was reading the computer systems in his arm and leg, learning how they worked understanding what they were designed to do. The sensation was strange, but not painful. It felt like someone was looking through his memories. Then the cube started to change. Patterns appeared on its surface, flowing like water but made of light. The patterns matched the blue lines on Daeho's mechanical limbs. Whatever had built the cube, they understood human augmentation technology. "Daeho! What's happening?" Hyunwoo shouted over the sound. "I don't know," Daeho replied, but that wasn't completely true. Somehow he was starting to understand. The cube was a machine, but it was also alive. It had been waiting for someone like him, someone with both human thoughts and mechanical parts. The light from the cube grew brighter. Every piece of electronic equipment in the valley started to react. Hyunwoo's scanner was beeping wildly. The transport vehicle's engine turned on by itself. Even their communication radios started broadcasting signals to space. Back in New Busan, the colony's computers began to malfunction. Lights flickered in buildings. The power grid surged and stabilized. Communication satellites in orbit around the planet detected energy patterns they had never seen before. In her office, So-Ra Park was watching her screens fill with error messages when her assistant ran in. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from all over the colony," the assistant said. "Electronic systems are going crazy, and there's a massive energy signature coming from the eastern mountains." Sora thought about Daeho and Hyunwoo. They had reached the crash site right on schedule. "Get me a transport. I need to see what they found." At the crash site, the cube had stopped glowing, but it was still humming softly. Daeho took his hand away from the surface, and the patterns faded. His mechanical arm felt different now, stronger, more connected to his human brain. "Did you see that?" Hyunwoo asked, pointing at the cube. "The patterns looked just like your augmentation circuits." Daeho nodded. He was beginning to understand what had happened. The cube had scanned his mechanical parts and learned how to communicate with them. But it had also shared information with him. Images were floating in his mind now, pictures of star systems he had never seen, maps of planets scattered across the galaxy. "We need to get back to the colony," Daeho said. "There are people who should see this." "Wait," Hyunwoo said. He was studying his scanner readings. "The cube is still active, and it's transmitting something into space, a signal of some kind." Daeho felt a chill run down his spine. If the cube was sending signals, someone might be listening. Someone might be coming. They loaded the cube into their transport vehicle. It was heavy, but Daeho's mechanical arm could lift it easily. During the drive back to New Busan, he told Hyunwoo about the images he had seen. "There are other cubes," Daeho said. "Dozens of them, on different worlds. They're all connected somehow." "Connected how?" "I don't know, but whoever built them left them for a reason." When they reached the colony, So-Ra Park was waiting with a team of scientists and security guards. Among them was a woman Daeho had never seen before. She was tall and thin, with gray hair and intelligent eyes. "This is Yoonji Wang," So-Ra said. "She's a xenoarchaeologist from Earth. She specializes in ancient alien artifacts." Yoonji stepped forward and examined the cube with professional interest. "Fascinating," she said. "The material composition is unlike anything I've seen, and the geometric precision is perfect to the atomic level." They moved the cube to a secure laboratory in the colony's research center. Yoonji ran every test she could think of, but the cube revealed few secrets. It was older than human civilization, much older. Her carbon dating equipment suggested it was at least 50,000 years old. "But that's impossible," Hyunwoo said. "Nothing can stay that perfect for 50,000 years." "Unless it was designed to," Yoonji replied. "This isn't just a machine. It's a message. Someone built it to last forever, waiting for the right person to find it." "The right person?" So-Ra asked. Yoonji looked at Daeho. "Someone with mechanical augmentations. The cube only activated when he touched it. It scanned his cybernetic parts and used them as a communication interface. Over the next few hours, they learned more about what the cube could do. When Dae-ho placed his hand on it, the patterns returned. The laboratory's computers connected to the cube's network, downloading massive amounts of data. Star charts appeared on the screens, showing the locations of other cubes throughout the galaxy. Each location was marked with symbols that seemed to indicate different types of worlds: ocean planets, desert worlds, gas giants with floating cities. But all of them had one thing in common. They had once been inhabited by a species that no longer existed. "Who were they?" Sora asked. "The data calls them the Builders," Yunji said, studying the translated information. "They were an ancient race that spread across the galaxy millions of years ago. They created these cubes and left them behind before they disappeared." "Why?" Dae-ho asked. "To find others like them. Species that combine organic intelligence with mechanical enhancement. The cubes were meant to test and teach such species." Hyunwoo was excited by the implications. "You mean there are other races out there with augmentation technology?" "There were," Yunji said. "But according to this data, none of them survived the testing process." The room fell silent. The idea that humanity might be special was exciting, but the thought that other species had failed was frightening. That evening, as the research team continued to study the cube, Dae-ho walked through the colony streets. People stared at him more than usual. Word had spread that he had found something important in the mountains. Some looked at him with hope. Others seemed afraid. Jimin was waiting for him at her clinic. "I heard about the cube," she said. "Are you all right?" "I think so. But something's coming." "What do you mean?" "The cube sent a signal into space when I first touched it. If there are others like it out there, they know we found one." As if to confirm his fears, the colony's alert sirens began to wail. Sora's voice came over the emergency broadcast system. "All citizens report to emergency shelters immediately. Long-range sensors have detected multiple ships approaching our system. They will arrive within 24 hours. Dae-ho and Jimin ran to the research center. The laboratory was in chaos. Scientists were packing equipment while security guards established defensive positions. The cube was still humming softly, its patterns flowing like liquid light. "How many ships?" Dae-ho asked Sora. 37, she replied. "They're not raiders. The ships are too advanced, and they're coming from the direction the cube's signal was transmitted." Yunji was studying the incoming data. "These ships match some of the designs in the cube's database. I think we're about to meet the descendants of one of the builder client species." "Are they friendly?" Hyunwoo asked. "We're about to find out." The alien ships arrived exactly when the sensors predicted they would. 37 vessels of different sizes dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of New Busan's solar system. The largest ship was 5 kilometers long, shaped like a curved blade with energy patterns flowing along its hull. Dae-ho stood in the colony's command center with Sora, Yunji, and the other leaders. Through the main viewing screen, they could see the alien fleet approaching slowly. The ships were beautiful in a way that human vessels never were. They seemed to flow through space like living creatures swimming through water. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies," the communications officer reported. "But I can't understand any of it." "Let me try," Dae-ho said. He walked over to the cube, which had been moved to the command center for safety. When he placed his mechanical hand on the silver surface, the patterns began to glow. The alien broadcasts suddenly became clear. "Greetings, children of the Builder's design," a voice said through the speakers. "We are the Vorthak. We have traveled far to witness your awakening." Sora stepped forward. "This is Administrator Park of the New Busan colony. We come in peace." "Peace is the way of those who follow the Builder path," the alien voice replied. "We request permission to meet with the one who activated the teaching cube." All eyes turned to Dae-ho. His mechanical arm was still connected to the cube, and he could feel information flowing between them. The Vorthak were not here to conquer or destroy. They were here to test him. "I'll meet with them," he said. "Daeho, we don't know if it's safe," Jimin protested. She had come to the command center when the alert was sounded. "The cube says they won't hurt me. They're here because I passed the first test." "What test?" Sora asked. "Touching the cube without being destroyed by it. Apparently, most species that try to interface with builder technology die in the process." A small alien shuttle separated from the main fleet and descended toward New Busan. It landed in the colony's central plaza, where a crowd had gathered despite orders to stay in their homes. The shuttle's design was elegant and flowing, like the larger ships. 3 aliens emerged from the craft. They were tall and thin, about 2.5 meters high, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. They wore no clothing, but their bodies were covered with intricate tattoos that seemed to move and change color. Most surprising of all, parts of their bodies were clearly mechanical. Metal strips ran along their arms and legs, and small devices were embedded in their skulls. The leader of the group approached Daeho. When it spoke, the words came from a device on its chest, rather than its mouth. "I am Commander Torvan of the Vorthak Guidance Fleet. You are the human who awakened the teaching cube." "I am Daeho Kim," he replied. "These are my people." Torvan studied him with those large black eyes. "You interest us, Daeho Kim. Your species has developed mechanical augmentation independently, just as the builders predicted. But you are the first we have encountered in 50,000 years to successfully interface with their technology." 50,000 years. Yunji stepped forward. "How long have you been searching?" "Since the builders departed for the higher dimensions. They left instructions for us to watch for species like yours, species that combine organic creativity with mechanical precision." The crowd in the plaza was growing larger. Minho Song, a former military officer, was trying to organize security. Yujin Kang, a 12-year-old girl known for her mathematical abilities, had somehow slipped past the guards and was staring at the aliens with fascination. "Why are we special?" Daeho asked. Torvan's tattoos shifted to a golden color. "Because you think like living beings, but can interface with machines like constructed ones. This is the path the builders followed. This is the path they want others to follow. What happened to the builders? They evolved beyond physical existence. But first they created a network of teaching cubes to guide younger species through the same transformation." Sora was trying to understand the implications. "You're saying the cube is meant to change us?" "To test you first. Then, if you prove worthy, to teach you." Torvan gestured toward the cube, which was still glowing softly. "The cube Daeho activated is the first level of testing. There are 3 more levels, on 3 different worlds. Each one will challenge your species in a different way." "What if we fail?" Hyunwoo asked. "Then you remain as you are, limited to one world, dependent on primitive technology, eventually facing extinction like so many others. And if we succeed, you join the community of builder inheritors. Your species will gain access to technologies that can reshape matter and energy. You will be able to travel between stars as easily as walking between rooms." The promise was incredible, but Daeho could sense there was more to it. "What's the cost?" Torvan's tattoos turned dark blue. "The same cost the builders paid. To gain their power, you must become like them. More machine than flesh, more energy than matter. Eventually, you may transcend physical existence entirely." A murmur went through the crowd. Some people looked excited at the possibility. Others seemed frightened. Jimin moved closer to Daeho. "That's not really living," she said quietly. "The builders would disagree," Torvan replied, somehow hearing her. "They exist in dimensions we cannot imagine, with abilities we cannot comprehend. They have achieved true immortality." "But they're not human anymore," Daeho said. No, they are something greater. The conversation was interrupted by Yu-Jin Kang, who had worked her way to the front of the crowd. Despite her young age, she was one of the smartest people on New Busan. She looked up at Torvan without fear. "How many species have tried the tests?" she asked. "Thousands. Over the past 50 million years, thousands of species have found teaching cubes and attempted the trials. How many succeeded?" Torvan's tattoos turned gray. 17. The number hit everyone like a physical blow. Thousands of species had tried, and only 17 had succeeded. The odds were terrible. "What happened to the others?" Sora asked. "Some destroyed themselves in the attempt. Others gave up after the first or second trial. A few completed all the tests, but chose not to accept the final transformation." "They stayed as they were?" "Yes, but without the builder technologies, they eventually faced extinction through war, disease, or natural disaster. The galaxy is not kind to weak species." Daeho felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. The decision wasn't just about him. It was about the entire human race. If he tried the tests and failed, humanity might be doomed. If he succeeded, but the transformation was too extreme, humans might lose everything that made them human. "How long do we have to decide?" he asked. "The next testing cube is on Kepler 442b, a water world 12 light years from here. You have 1 standard year to reach it and attempt the trial. If you do not come, we will assume humanity has chosen to remain as it is." "And if I go alone?" "The tests require not just one individual, but a species willing to change. You cannot complete them without the support of your people." Sora understood the implication immediately. "You're asking us to bet our entire civilization on this. The builders faced the same choice when they were young. As did we. As did all 17 species that succeeded." "What are the Vorthak now?" Yunji asked. Torvan's form shimmered slightly, becoming translucent for a moment. "We are what the builders were 50,000 years ago, partly physical, partly energy. We guide and teach the species that come after us, as the builders guided us. And after us, you will guide others, if you survive to reach that level." The meeting continued for several hours. Torvan explained more about the trials and what they would require. The second test would challenge Daeho's ability to interface with builder technology under extreme conditions. The third would test his capacity to merge human creativity with mechanical precision. The fourth and final trial would require him to make the choice between remaining human or becoming something greater. As the alien shuttle prepared to leave, Torvan approached Daeho one last time. "You should know," the Vorthak commander said, "that your species has already accomplished something remarkable. In 50,000 years of watching and waiting, you are only the second species to activate a teaching cube without losing members of your population to madness or violence. What was the first? Us. The Vorthak were the last species to successfully complete the trials before you arrived. After the aliens departed, the colony leadership gathered in emergency session. The debate went on all night. Some argued that the risks were too great. Others insisted that humanity had no choice but to try. The raiders were still out there, and other threats would come eventually. Without advanced technology, the human colonies would always be vulnerable. In the end, the decision came down to Daeho. He was the only human who could interface with the teaching cubes. If he refused to try, the opportunity would be lost forever. As dawn broke over New Busan, Daeho made his choice. Standing in the plaza where the Vorthak shuttle had landed, with the entire colony watching, he placed his hand on the teaching cube one more time. The patterns flowed across its surface, brighter than ever before. "I'll take the tests," he announced, "for all of humanity." 6 months later, Daeho stood on the bridge of the human starship Pioneer, watching the blue-green world of Kepler 442b grow larger on the viewing screen. The ship had been built using technology from the first teaching cube, combined with human engineering. It could travel between stars in weeks instead of years, but the real changes were in Daiho himself. His mechanical parts had grown. What started as just his left arm and right leg now included portions of his torso and neck. Silver lines ran under his skin, connecting his organic brain to the cybernetic systems. He could process information faster than any computer and interface directly with any machine. "We're approaching the coordinates the Vorthak gave us," announced Taijun Yu, the ship's pilot. He was a good man, brave enough to volunteer for this dangerous mission. Like everyone else on the crew, he looked at Daiho with a mixture of respect and worry. Their friend was becoming something inhuman. Nayoung Shin, the expedition's philosopher, was documenting everything for the historical record. She believed that someone needed to preserve the story of humanity's transformation, regardless of how it ended. Her recordings would be sent back to Earth and the colonies. "The ocean depth at the target location is 8,000 meters, reported the ship's sensors officer. "There's definitely something down there. Large, geometric, artificial." Daiho could feel the second teaching cube calling to him even from space. His mechanical parts resonated with its energy signature. This cube would test his ability to function under extreme conditions, where human flesh would fail, but machine systems might survive. The Pioneer landed on a floating platform that extended from the ship's hull. Daiho put on a deep-sea exploration suit, though he wasn't sure he needed it anymore. His cybernetic parts regulated his internal environment better than any life support system. The descent took 3 hours. As the submersible craft went deeper, the water pressure increased beyond what any normal human could survive. But Daiho felt fine. His mechanical parts were designed for environments like this. At 7,000 meters, they found the ruins of an ancient city. The builders had lived here once, in great spires that reached toward the surface. Now the structures were covered with strange coral that glowed with its own light. Fish unlike any on Earth swam between the buildings. The teaching cube sat in the center of the ruined city. Like the first one, it was a perfect silver square, 2 meters on each side, but this one was surrounded by a field of energy that pushed against the water, creating a bubble of air around it. "The pressure readings are impossible," Taejun said over the radio. "There should be 8,000 meters of water crushing that bubble, but it's staying stable." Daiho left the submersible and walked across the ocean floor toward the cube. His mechanical legs worked perfectly in the high-pressure environment. The energy bubble accepted him, and suddenly he was breathing air again. When he touched the cube, the transformation began immediately. This time, the connection was deeper and more complete. The cube didn't just scan his mechanical parts. It began to improve them. His cybernetic system spread further through his body, replacing organs and bones with more efficient artificial versions. The test was simple in concept, but brutal in execution. The cube projected holographic scenarios where Daiho had to solve complex problems while his body was under extreme stress. He had to repair damaged equipment while being crushed by water pressure. He had to navigate through underwater mazes while his oxygen supply ran low. He had to fight mechanical guardians that tested every aspect of his augmented abilities. For 12 hours, the trials continued. With each test, more of his human body was replaced by builder technology. His heart became a fusion-powered energy core. His lungs were replaced by atmospheric processors that could extract oxygen from any environment. His bones became living metal that was stronger than steel but flexible like organic tissue. The hardest part wasn't the physical challenges. It was watching himself become less human with each passing hour. When he looked at his reflection in the cube's surface, he saw a being that was more machine than man. His face was the same, but silver lines traced patterns across his skin. His eyes glowed with the same blue light as his original mechanical arm. On the ship above, Na Young was recording everything. Hour 14 of the second trial. Daeho's vital signs are becoming increasingly difficult to monitor. His biological functions are being replaced by artificial systems. I'm not sure he can be considered human anymore. But down in the ocean depths, Daeho was discovering abilities he had never imagined. He could survive in the vacuum of space. He could process information at the speed of light. He could interface with any technology just by thinking about it. The cube was teaching him to become a bridge between organic creativity and mechanical precision. When the test finally ended, the cube projected a new star map. This one showed the location of the third trial on Wolf 1061c, a high-gravity world orbiting a red dwarf star. The journey would take 8 months, even with the new faster-than-light drive. The crew of the Pioneer was quiet during the trip home to New Busan. They had watched their friend and colleague transform into something beyond their understanding. He still talked like Daeho, still cared about the same things, but he was clearly no longer entirely human. When they arrived at the colony, the changes in Daeho caused quite a reaction. Some people were fascinated by his new abilities. Others were frightened by how different he looked. Children stared at him with wide eyes, not sure if he was still the same person who had found the first cube. Jimin examined him in her clinic, running every test she could think of. The results were extraordinary. His body was now 60% artificial, but the mechanical and organic parts worked together seamlessly. He was faster, stronger, and smarter than any human had ever been. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Different," Daeho replied. "I can see electromagnetic spectrums that humans can't detect. I can hear radio transmissions from satellites in orbit. I can calculate the trajectory of every object in this room simultaneously." "But do you still feel human?" Daeho was quiet for a long moment. "I remember being human. I remember what it felt like to be weak and limited and uncertain. But those feelings seem very distant now." "That scares me. It should, because if I complete the remaining trials, I'll become something even more different." The colony spent months preparing for the third trial. Human scientists studied the data from the first 2 cubes, trying to understand what the builders had been trying to achieve. The conclusion was disturbing. The builders weren't just testing individual abilities, they were guiding species through a specific evolutionary path that led away from biological existence entirely. The third trial took place on Wolf 1061T, a world with gravity 3 times stronger than Earth's. Normal humans couldn't even stand up there, let alone function effectively. But Daeho's reinforced body handled the conditions easily. The cube on this world was different. Instead of projecting tests, it split into thousands of smaller pieces. That moved independently. Daeho had to catch and reassemble them while defending against automated defense systems left behind by the builders. The trial required him to think creatively while operating multiple mechanical systems simultaneously. During the test, his transformation accelerated again. His brain was enhanced with quantum processors that let him think in multiple dimensions at once. His nervous system was replaced with fiber optic networks that transmitted information at the speed of light. By the time he completed the trial, he was more like a living computer than a human being. The fourth and final cube was on Proxima Centauri b, a world that existed partially in normal space and partially in higher dimensions. Getting there required technology that hadn't been invented yet, but Daeho's enhanced mind was able to design it. The final trial was the simplest and most terrifying of all. The cube presented him with a choice. He could accept the full transformation that would make him like the builders, gaining incredible power but losing his physical existence. Or he could stop where he was, keeping some connection to humanity but limiting his potential. Standing before the final cube, Daeho thought about all the people depending on him. Sora, who had trusted him with humanity's future. Jimin, who had kept his mechanical parts working all these years. Hyun-woo, who dreamed of a better future for everyone. the children of New Busan, who deserved a chance to grow up in a safe galaxy. But he also thought about what he would become. The builders existed as pure energy and information, conscious but no longer truly alive in any way that humans would understand. They had gained the power to reshape reality itself, but they had lost the ability to touch another person's hand or feel the warmth of sunlight on their skin. The cube waited patiently for his decision. Around him, the higher dimensions pressed against normal space, showing him glimpses of what he could become. He could be immortal. He could travel instantly to any point in the galaxy. He could create new worlds with a thought. All he had to do was give up everything that made him human. Daeho stared at the final cube for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. His enhanced mind could process thousands of thoughts simultaneously, weighing every possible outcome of his choice. Around him, the higher dimensions rippled and flowed, showing him visions of what he could become. In one vision, he saw himself as pure energy, traveling instantly between star systems, reshaping matter with his thoughts. In another, he remained partially physical but gained the ability to create new forms of life. Each possibility was seductive in its own way. But then he thought of something the Vorthak commander had not mentioned. In all the visions the cube showed him, he was alone. The builders existed in isolation, each one a godlike being with no equals. They had transcended physical existence, but they had also transcended relationships, friendship, and love. "No," Daeho said to the cube, "I won't become like them." The patterns on the cube's surface shifted, showing confusion. This was not the response it had been programmed to expect. "I'll take the power," Daeho continued, "but I'll use it differently." He pressed both hands against the cube and opened his mind to its full potential. But instead of accepting the transformation it offered, he began to modify it. His enhanced brain worked at speeds no biological mind could match, rewriting the fundamental programming of the builder technology. The cube resisted at first, then began to change. The silver surface rippled like water, then reformed into a new configuration. Instead of one perfect cube, it became a network of smaller devices, each one designed to interface with different levels of human augmentation. When the transformation was complete, Daeho had gained immense power, but he had kept his essential humanity. He could still feel emotions, still form connections with other people. More importantly, he had created a way for other humans to join him without losing themselves completely. The return journey to New Busan took 6 months. During that time, Daeho used his new abilities to design technologies that would change human civilization forever. He created factories that could build anything from raw energy. He developed medicine that could cure any disease and extend human life indefinitely. He designed starships that could cross the galaxy in days. But his greatest achievement was the augmentation system he had extracted from the final cube. It could enhance human capabilities without destroying human nature. People could choose how much they wanted to change, from simple physical improvements to radical mental expansion. When the Pioneer reached New Busan, Daeho called a meeting of all the colony's leaders. Sora, now showing gray in her hair from the stress of the past 2 years, listened carefully as he explained what he had learned. "The builders made a mistake," he told them. "They believed that to gain true power, you had to abandon everything that made you who you were. But power without purpose is meaningless. Immortality without connection is just eternal loneliness." "So what are you proposing?" asked Yunji, who had spent the time studying the data from the first 3 cubes. "That humanity takes a different path. We'll accept the gifts the builders left behind, but we'll use them to become better humans, not to stop being human entirely." He showed them the new augmentation devices he had created. Unlike his own transformation, which had been forced on him by the cube's tests, these would be voluntary and reversible. People could enhance their bodies and minds while keeping their essential humanity intact. The colony voted to accept his proposal. Within a year, half the population of New Busan had received some form of augmentation. Hyun-woo, now the colony's chief engineer, had enhanced his brain to better understand complex technology. So-ra had improved her memory and analytical abilities to help govern the growing human settlements. Even Ji-min had accepted minor physical enhancements that let her work more effectively as a doctor. But the real changes came when they shared the technology with Earth and the other colonies. Humanity began to spread across the galaxy at an unprecedented rate. Ships built with builder technology could travel between stars in hours. Worlds that had been uninhabitable were transformed into garden paradises. The raider fleets that had terrorized human colonies for decades found themselves outmatched by vessels that could appear anywhere instantly. Not everyone accepted the changes. About a third of humanity chose to remain unaugmented, living on worlds set aside specifically for those who wanted to preserve the original human form. Another third accepted moderate improvements, gaining enhanced health and longevity while remaining essentially biological. The final third, led by people like Dae-ho, pushed the boundaries of what it meant to be human, while never crossing the line into pure machine existence. 5 years after the final trial, Dae-ho stood in the command center of Titan Station, the largest human construction project ever attempted. The space habitat was the size of a small moon, built around an artificial star that provided unlimited clean energy. Millions of humans and human variants lived there, working together to explore the galaxy and make contact with other species. "The Vorthak fleet is requesting permission to dock," announced Yoo-jin Kang, now grown up and serving as the station's communications officer. Her augmented mind could handle hundreds of simultaneous conversations in dozens of alien languages. "Permission. Granted," Dae-ho replied. He was curious to see how Torvan would react to humanity's unconventional solution to the Builder trials. The Vorthak commander materialized on the station's main platform, his form shimmering between physical and energy states. When he saw Dae-ho, his tattoos shifted to a color that indicated surprise. "You are not what we expected you to become," Torvan said. "I know. We chose a different path than the one the Builders intended. Yet you clearly gained access to their highest technologies. The quantum manipulators, the dimensional engines, the matter converters, these should only be available to those who complete the full transformation." Dae-ho smiled, an expression that looked strange on his partially mechanical face. "We convinced the cubes that there was more than one way to evolve." "How?" "By proving that consciousness doesn't require abandoning the body and that power doesn't require abandoning relationships. The Builders became gods, but gods are lonely. We chose to become something different." Torvan studied the bustling activity of the station around them. Humans and augmented humans worked alongside alien visitors and artificial intelligences. Children played in parks where gravity could be adjusted with a thought. Artists created sculptures from pure energy that would last for millennia. "What do you call yourselves now?" Torvan asked. "Human," Dae-ho replied. "We're still human. We're just human in ways we never imagined possible." "And what of the Builder legacy? The network of cubes spread across the galaxy? We're modifying them. Instead of forcing species to choose between power and identity, they'll offer a range of options. Some species may still choose the Builder path, but others can find their own way forward." Torvan's form flickered, becoming more solid than Dae-ho had ever seen it. "The Vorthak Council has been debating this development. We completed our transformation 50,000 years ago, but we have often wondered if we chose correctly. It's not too late to choose again. Perhaps not. We will consider your example." As the Vorthak delegation toured Titan Station, Dae-ho received a message from the exploration fleet. Captain Min-ho Song, now commanding the starship New Horizon, reported the discovery of another species just beginning to develop augmentation technology. They're called the Kalari, Minho's message said. They're about where humanity was 50 years ago, just starting to experiment with mechanical limbs and artificial organs. They found one of the modified cubes you created. Deho smiled. Again. This was exactly what he had hoped for. Instead of forcing the Kalari through the same trials that had nearly cost him his humanity, the modified cube would offer them choices. They could enhance themselves gradually, at their own pace, in ways that fit their culture and values. Prepare a diplomatic mission, he told Eugene, but keep it small and non-threatening. Let them know they're not alone, but don't pressure them to make any decisions quickly. Should we tell them about the builder trials? Eventually. But first, let them know that evolution doesn't have to mean losing who you are. A year later, Se-Jin Park, So-Ra's daughter, led humanity's first joint mission with the Kalari to investigate a builder ruin on a distant world. The Kalari had chosen a path similar to humanity's, accepting some augmentation while maintaining their essential nature. Together, the two species were learning to use builder technology in ways the original creators had never intended. Standing in the observation deck of Titan Station, watching ships from a dozen species come and go, Deho reflected on how much had changed. His mechanical parts still hummed with power, and his enhanced mind could process information at incredible speeds. But he could also feel the warmth of friendship when Jimin visited, the pride when he watched Eugene solve complex problems, the satisfaction of seeing human children playing safely in parks that spanned multiple star systems. The builders had achieved godhood, but they had lost their souls in the process. The Vorthak had gained great power, but they existed in a state between life and death. Humanity had chosen a different path,